Yeah, Murph was fun. It's actually my favorite workout, and I decided to do it twice in a week just because. But but it's a tough workout.
He said twice in a week. If you missed that,
Yeah.
I am an everyday athlete.
I am an everyday athlete.
I am an everyday athlete.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jared Bass with Mark McCain, and you are listening to Everyday Athlete, a podcast devoted to bringing you the amazing stories behind the lives of day-to-day CrossFit athletes like yourself. And today we have two special guests. We have Matt Bryant and Nora and all of Matt's toys that he brought and will not share with anyone.
No,
welcome.
Nora can look at them. That's about it.
Welcome. Yeah, that's nice. That's actually kind of scary. That one is.
I agree. You want to know where that came from?
Where?
Sarah Keene's youngest gave it to her. It was Olivia's, and she wanted her to have it.
It's terrifying.
I know.
Those eyeballs are scary. Nora doesn't even mind.
All done?
So, how old is Nora?
Nora is 9 months old, almost 10 months old.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So and she is number 5 for you guys, correct?
Yes, she is.
So and the only well protected female in the family. She's got 4 older brothers, correct?
Yes, and they are all quite a bit older.
Yeah. So how what's the age range for everybody?
Liam, my oldest, is 11. The twins are 9, Henry and Owen. Declan, 6. And they've all got birthdays coming up between April and May.
April and May.
Yep.
So yeah, we before the podcast we were just timing some things out. So you guys are obviously have a pretty wonderful family, and we were talking a little bit prior to the podcast and just how you guys were planning and maybe still planning on fostering. Is that something you guys have always wanted to do?
It was something I had thought about. I don't know, as I got a little older, and it was funny because Jen and I had never talked about it, but it was one of those where, I don't know, we were just at a point in time, and I was like, you know what, Jen? She goes, what's that? I go, I just have this feeling that we're supposed to foster, and she kind of chuckled. I go, why are you laughing at that? She goes, I kind of felt the same way. She goes, I just hadn't said anything. So we were kind of both on the same page. So we ended up with a 12-passenger van in preparation for that.
Well, you guys are already fielding a full basketball team right now, so you do have your hands full. So obviously with Nora around it, and maybe put some things on the sideline, but that is something you guys still want to kind of travel down.
It's something we've talked about. While she's younger, probably not as far as fostering goes, but as she gets a little older, we may revisit that.
Yeah. And what's the draw to that for you?
Just having a bigger family, helping people that need help.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's important that kids have a safe environment they can grow up in, and it would give some of the kids an opportunity that don't have that.
Then that's something. I mean, I got from you and Jen from day one, which is just that you guys like to genuinely help people. Is that where? I don't think that's something someone's just born with. Is that maybe a learned behavior? Is it something like through your family and friends that taught you?
I guess it's with people I surround myself with, to be honest with you, because I've always been that way, but so have most of my friends. So I think it's just who you surround yourself with. You kind of everybody adapts together. I mean, you make each other better people, or worse people for that matter.
Yeah, I agree. We literally just, there was a blog post yesterday that Mark wrote actually a couple of years ago. It really just says just that you are the culmination, or the 5 people you hang around with the most, and I think that's something that is 100% true. The more we see building the gym here, and just on a personal growth level, I mean, it's really, really important that you surround yourself with people that you want to be around, that they're going to make you a better person. Is there anybody in particular that really kind of drove that home?
It's going to sound stupid, but not stupid. It's going to sound cheesy. Jen. I've been with Jen since 2001. No, sorry. November of 2000. So it's one of those things that, she made me a better person from the start. I was not probably the best version of myself prior to her. So she definitely helped me in settling me down, calming me down, getting me in a place that I should be.
How old were you in 2001?
I would have been 20 when we met, because we met in November of 2000. So I'm born in 80.
I got you.
October of 80.
Yeah, just for some perspective there. So basically, you guys met whenever you were 20, and then you kind of obviously stuck around. And when was the take us through maybe the timeline events after that? So you guys meet, and then boom, and
it was kind of funny.
Fall in love and all that stuff. Yeah, maybe not at first sight, or what was it for you, and maybe not her, or both, or
I knew it quicker than she did. I
okay.
think. Actually, it was funny because I kind of harassed her a little bit about going out sometime, and she was like, "Well, don't be a jerk, and maybe we'll go out."
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we went on our first date, and she kept me around because our first date we went to pick out a tux for me to go to a formal with another girl.
Oh wow.
Now keep in mind,
Awkward.
I didn't know the other girl. I was going with a friend. It was his girlfriend's friend. There was like 5 of us that went, and we all went with people we didn't know. But that was our first encounter. Was our first date. Was she went on a date with me to pick out a tux, and then later that night, it was actually election night in 2000. So we went back to my parents' house, and my mom decided to call her by my ex-girlfriend's name 2 or 3 times that night. So that's where we started. So I'm shocked I got another date after that, for one.
That's nice.
But then I guess it was about 2 weeks later. I worked at Jillian's at the time, and me and some other managers would hang out after hours, after we closed up Jillian's. If you're not familiar, it was just a nightclub.
Oh, yeah.
It had bowling and pool and everything else. Me and about 3 or 4 managers hung out one night afterwards and were bowling and drinking and just hanging out and stuff. And they're like, "So how are things with you and Jen?" And I was like, "Well, she's the girl I'm going to marry." Keep in mind I'd had some drinks. So they're like, "Okay, all right, whatever." I go, "No, I'm being serious." And it was one of those things I just kind of knew pretty much right out of the gate. Just a feeling. I dated a lot of girls and never felt the same way.
Yep.
So it was pretty easy to figure that one out.
It's pretty cool that you had that, especially at the age of 20. Because a lot of people, it takes a little bit longer to kind of feel that out and figure that out for themselves.
Well, and to give you an idea, I ended up moving to North Carolina in May or June of 2001. So we'd only been dating like 6 months. I had a huge decision to make, and so did she. But it was, okay, do I ask her to move to North Carolina with me or not? Because I knew at that point, if she moves with me, these are my intentions. I plan on, getting married to her at that point. So we ended up moving down to North Carolina together. It actually wasn't for very long. My job kind of went away after I went down there, but that's no big deal. It actually turned out just fine. But we were engaged less than a year after we met and married about a year later.
That's pretty awesome, man. And that job, so speaking of jobs, you are jack of all trades, I will definitely say. So not only a firefighter, but you're also in the construction field, correct?
I am.
Was the job a North Carolina construction job?
No, it was with Jillian's as well.
Really?
I was a regional training manager. So I had 6 stores in 4 states that I was in charge of all training. And that goes from general manager, assistant GM, down to managers, supervisors, all the way down. I wasn't the one hands-on training everybody, but I was the one responsible for the program in those 6 stores.
Wow. I didn't know there was more than one.
There were 41 at the time, and I don't know if there's any left now. If there is, there's probably the one in Louisville and maybe the one in Boston.
Huh.
But that'd be about it.
I had no idea that they were there was more than one. I thought it was just a one-off thing here. Now it's they're turning it into a what is it? The city building for the city of Covington. Now it's gonna be pretty awesome when it's all said and done. So how did firefighting come about? Because I know it's a pretty big part of what you do.
Well, after 9/11, I decided I wanted to do something because I was not working at Jillian's anymore, and I'd been working in construction. And I was like, "Jen, I feel like I need to do something. I want to go in the military." And she was fully supportive. So I tried to get in the military, went through, took my ASVAB, went to so your aptitude test, did great on that, and then I was going to MEPS, which is Military Entrance Program or whatever it is in Indianapolis. And when I got there, we're running through things, and I've gone through the whole physical, hearing, peeing a cup, sight, all that stuff, and I'm making my way back, and you meet with the doctors. And I met with the doctor, and we start running through, and one of the questions on the list is, are you allergic to anything? I go, I'm allergic to shellfish. He goes, okay, and then just continues on. We finish the whole thing, and then after that I go, okay, now do I go pick my job, pick my POS? And he's like, or MOS, he goes, no, you're disqualified. I go, what do you mean I'm disqualified? He goes, food allergy, automatic disqualifier.
Wow.
So I was rather aggravated with my recruiter because I asked him specifically, and he said that wasn't an issue. But so I tried to get in the military for about 1.5 years, writing letters and stuff, and just never could get anywhere with it. So then I looked at Jen, I go, okay, well, I want to do civil service, cop or firefighter. She just laughed at me. She goes, well, definitely not cop.
Yep.
So firefighter it is. I started with firefighting, and to get a full-time job, you become an EMT. So then I moved along to the medical side.
So what was that? I'm just curious, real quick. What was that moment like with the 9/11? Was it just like something like boom? I mean, I think obviously most of the country was riveted by that obviously event, and we'll never forget it. But was it just you're sitting there? Like, do you remember the exact moment where you're just like, man, you're watching this and you're just like, I gotta do that. I gotta do something.
I was actually in North Carolina when it happened. And, yeah, I mean, I remember everything about that morning. And it wasn't just the one incident. That was just the one that kind of put it over the top. I'd thought about it for a long time. My mom,
okay. I got you.
My mom was always totally against me going into the military. She's like, you can do more. And I'm like, guess what? Because she's always afraid that something's going to happen.
Sure.
And, you know,
she's a mom.
I don't want my son to be there. And I'm like, well, it's somebody's son. It's going to be somebody. So I felt like I wanted to be that person. So, yeah, I mean, just that kind of put it over the top. And it was like, okay, yeah, I really feel like
and then it just kind of became your mission. Like, I need to do my part.
Pretty much so.
And I think that's kind of with the fostering, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean,
that's probably where a little bit of that comes from.
Yeah, I think you should do something if you can do something. I think it's kind of how I feel.
That's
the through point definitely is you're a person that likes to help other people. I mean, and the whole family is the same, you know, all you guys when you know, we moved into this space, that was very apparent. You guys had basically I want to say it just started when we moved into here.
I had started I just got my email this past week, so I started in March.
Wow.
Oh, actually, no, I do know the date. It was March 25th because it was 16/5, and I just looked it up the other day. So yeah, it was March 25th was my first actual.
So you started
class.
during the Open in 2016.
Oh, yeah. That's the worst workout I've ever done. Still.
I don't remember it.
It was 21,
I'm sure you remember it.
18, 15, 12, 9,
thrusters
6,
and
3.
burpees.
Thrusters, which I had never even heard of a thruster, and then burpees facing bar.
Yeah.
To this day, that's still the worst workout. And I'm not talking about just because that's how I felt after that. I think if I did that today, that would still be the worst workout that I've ever done.
Yeah, that one's pretty off. I don't know what it is about thrusters. Thrusters and burpees are two movements that they just wreck everyone.
Well, and I mean I literally had never done a thruster. I didn't even know what a thruster was.
Yeah.
And I'd never done burpees other than during on-ramp. That was the only time I'd ever done it.
How'd you get involved in CrossFit then? I mean, you guys just didn't show up one day.
No, actually, Jenna Quinn goes to church with us.
Oh, yeah.
And she was in small group with Jen and Sarah Keene. So she talked them into doing boot camp here. And
that's right, boot campers.
yes.
Yep.
So she did boot camp, and she goes, hey, I think I want to stay on and do CrossFit. And I kind of had this look like, I have an idea of what CrossFit is because there's a bunch of people from church that do it. I'm like, and I'm never going to tell her not to do something, but I'm like, are you sure that you're good for that, or do you think you should do another boot camp? She goes, no, I'll be good. So then I go, okay, so how's that work? And then that's when she started telling me about modifications. I'm like, holy crap, you mean you don't have to do everything that they're doing? And she started in, I'm wanting to say January or February after boot camp ended. So she was here for about 2 months. And she's like, I really think you ought to give it a try. So I was like, okay, well, you know, I'll do on-ramp and see how it goes and see where I'm at. So then I did that, and this was right up the alley of what I was looking for.
Yeah. You were a runner?
long time ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, I ran through middle school, high school, freshman year of college, but like I ran my first 5K, not this past July 4th, but the July 4th before. That was the first 5K I've run since 1999.
Wow.
And I don't even run for fun. Just after about 2 or 3 weeks, it gets my knees.
I don't know why you would, but you know.
Well, because when I was good at it, it was worth it.
So what kind of got you into running?
Actually, it's funny. I was in 6th grade, and my substitute teacher for the day, and I'd never met him before. His name was Mike Hunter, and he was like, "All right," you know. And he's
Did you say Mike Hunt?
I did not.
Okay,
but
sorry.
that was what we called him occasionally. It was Mike Hunter.
Okay.
But yeah, so it was one of those things. He came in and he's very animated, as
Kind of like Nora.
Do it more. So
Nora's
he's very
hungry.
animated and was like, "You guys, you know, everybody who's in here, anybody who's capable of running, you ought to come out. You ought to do it." And I'm like, "You know what? Why not?" So I actually went home, said, "Hey, Mom, I want to run." She goes, "Okay." I went to track the next day, and it was probably pretty humorous to watch because I'm wearing high tops and jeans. I'd never run a day in my life. So I went to practice the first day in high tops and jeans. And just
That's awesome.
kind of went into it. And it was one of those things. I was not very good. Like we did a retirement banquet for my coach maybe 5 years ago. And one of the guys got up and talked about the fact that, you know, Jerry could bring the best out of anybody. Jerry Moore was my coach at Scott High School. And they were like, "You can bring the best out of anybody." They go, take for example, he goes, Matt Bryant. He was terrible. He goes, like, he would finish and I'd just be like, "Oh, this poor kid." So it was one of those things that took a lot of hard work. It took about 3 or 4 years before I really got to a point I was good.
Oh, and again, just from watching you over the past now 2 years, because 16.5, so it's been 2 years now. You're one of the guys that if you put your mind to it, it's something that if something you really want to do, you're gonna make it happen. You know,
Except mobility.
Except mobility. Yeah,
You can't just put your mind to that.
Yeah.
I try.
Yeah. But it's one of those things that, you know, I remember you starting out and it was like getting ready for the Masters and you're like, "I want a 6-pack." And I'm like, "Awesome." You know, there's nothing wrong, but there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having a little bit of vanity in your goals, especially when they're going to improve you. It's not like you're going to be doing something detrimental to yourself by getting your nutrition right. But it was just one of those things where it was like Matt put his mind to it and he took care of it, and it happened, you know, and had some pretty solid photos for that Masters competition.
Yeah, I was pleased with the. I'm going to say there's some Photoshop in there. I was happy with it.
Yeah. Did some good work to those photos.
That's right. But so there obviously there's a competitive mindset that you've always had. When you said something about mobility, right? So I think you've gotten to a point in your life that you're like, there's no false notions that like, I'm just going to be out and be the strongest, the biggest, fastest. So was that something you've always had where it's like, I know my limitations, but I want to push myself? Or is it something you had to learn the hard way? And judging by your reaction,
I don't have limitations.
Yeah.
Limitations are all
I
in your
found
head.
that out. You know, you have a pretty cool Murph story whenever you originally started, and I think we found some limitations, maybe just a little bit. We don't have to dive too deep into that, but
Oh, no, we do.
that's one way to humble yourself real quick,
Go
right?
ahead and tell him, Matt.
To do the workout Murph and talk about honoring people in military. That's a good one.
And that's obviously going back to just your call to serve. You know, we do hero workouts here. I don't say regularly, but they pop up, and it's one of those things that like whenever they come up, like there's a expectation for minimally the coaches would say like, "Hey, this is the reason why we're doing this. There's something bigger than just this gym, and we need to honor this person for giving the ultimate sacrifice." And obviously, you did that with Murph.
Yeah, Murph was fun. It's actually my favorite workout, and I decided to do it twice in a week just because. But it's a tough workout.
He said twice in a week. If you missed that,
Yeah.
Once without the weight vest though.
Just to
make
try.
sure, to make sure I could do it before I did it with the weight vest.
I want you guys.
it's a lot easier without the weight vest.
I want you to hear that
It's like
again,
nothing.
that he said that he just did it to make sure he could do it.
Well, I'm going to call out Vicky on that, Vicky Bolger, because I had asked for a weight vest over Facebook. And somebody goes, "That sounds like a terrible idea. What are you doing?" And I go, "It's a workout," and I kind of explained it. And then Vicky posted the question, have you ever done it without the weight vest? So I didn't respond to her question. I was at work that day, and I'm like, it's 4 o'clock. I got time. So I went out and did Murph, and then I came back and posted, yes, I've done it now.
That's when I knew you were crazy, by the way, and I mean that in a good way. And again, a Murph, for those that don't know off the top of their head, a mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and then a mile run. You did that twice in a week. So I will say you were an exceptional runner whenever you first started with us. I mean, you still are now, but man, I would describe how Matt runs as he runs like a deer. I mean, he just literally just goes. So
you ever watch, whenever you see like an animal that's just kind of leap and bounding that doesn't look like it's trying very hard, that's pretty much Matt when he's running.
I feel good when I run. Like I said, I don't run. Actually, I don't run any time outside this gym.
Yep.
So like, the last 6 months, not very much, or since it's been cold. But the one thing I am thankful for is, although I don't run, I do keep form.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
even if I haven't run in 6 months, when I go back to run, it's still smooth. So it's still a lot less effort.
Yeah, you haven't forgotten that. It's, and that's a big part of this. Is I was actually just talking to one of our Tavis. Is that right? Did I get that right, Mark?
Tavis.
Yeah, I did it again. But anyways, he's a long distance runner and has always been. And I brought this up. There's a really old Greg Aldenson article on it's titled "Run a Mile to Run 100," and guy did just CrossFit.com programming and then ran 100 miles one day, and it proves that like as long as the mechanics are there and you have the conditioning to back it up, that conditioning doesn't have to be running, but.
And I will say that I do think running is more mind over matter than any other physical activity that you can do. You can't make yourself lift a whole bunch of weight. You can't make yourself be able to do pull-ups. You can't do some of those things.
Right.
But running is one of those things that it's more mental than it is physical.
Yeah.
And it's tough to get that mentality that you're okay to run.
I think that mentality for you was built well before you came here. Obviously, but I think that plays into kind of your mindset for your workouts for your daily life. I'm sure it carries over into your regular work and things like that. Going into maybe a dangerous situation as a firefighter, you have to be confident and know that you're going to be able to push through something that others might want to back down from.
Yep, and that's one of the things I have to deal with. I'm a pretty small guy, so of course when people first see me, and I'm a firefighter, I'm expected to be able to move heavy things, and they look at me and they're like, "Oh, are you going to be able to do this?" And yeah, I can. So that is something I've had to overcome for a long time, because I am all of 5'7" and I weigh less than $150. So you get people who just look at you and are like, "Can you do this job?" And you have to prove that you can.
So
because people don't just take it.
How has CrossFit helped you in the firefighting world? Because that's obviously there's a huge history between military, firefighters, police officers in the world of CrossFit. So I know for a fact there's carryover, but I just want maybe some from the horse's mouth.
Well, thanks for calling me a horse.
Yeah,
Stallion.
Strong and graceful is what I would like to say.
But basically, before I started CrossFit, I had actually taken off from working out for about 5 years. Okay. Now, I live a totally active lifestyle. I mean, I'm active at work. I'm lifting people up day in, day out. We are, doing training with firefighting. And then even in construction side, I'm still pretty active. But when I started CrossFit, I had never, done anything that was functional fitness, never heard of it. And it's so funny because a lot of the stuff we do here, I carry through work. It sounds silly, but I mean, our bag weighs 30 pounds. Our monitor weighs about 25 pounds. So when I pick up and do
so you got
farmer carries,
30 your body weight carrying stuff around.
Yeah, pretty much so. And when we do farmer carries here, I kind of chuckle because it's the same as doing that. When we carry saws are the same thing. So the biggest thing I got from CrossFit was getting endurance back. I've been pretty strong throughout. When I was working out prior, about 5 years ago, well, 7 years ago now, but when I was working out 5 years before I started CrossFit, all I was doing was weightlifting. So I was doing anything from back and bis, chest and tris, skipping leg day, of course, because nobody wants leg day. But it wasn't functional. I could bench 235. That's great, but when are you ever actually going to use that?
Sure.
There's just no need for it. So
Hold up, man. Don't bash bench pressing. All right.
I'm not bashing bench pressing. I'm just saying it's not functional.
I 100%. It's not as functional. I'll say. It has a
There's-
functionality piece to it for sure. But how many times are you going to be like underneath of a car, or you know what I mean? Like you have to push something up.
Well,
Like you're saying, farmer carries, pressing stuff over your head, picking stuff up off the ground. Carrying odd objects is way more.
Well, I'll put
functional.
it this way. When I was benching more than anything else, I benched 235. I think right now, if I were to bench, I'd probably do 185, 195. But I can tell you I'm way stronger now than I was then. So
Yeah.
it's moving weight in
it's
different
honestly,
ways.
it's crazy to me. So many people hold that as a benchmark.
Right.
Pun intended. But yeah, same deal. I mean, I was in that world. That's where I met Jared. Was at Urban Active. When we were doing bench pressing and stuff. Not Jared was doing CrossFit. I was with another guy doing bench press.
I was doing a version of CrossFit.
Yeah.
You're doing probably what would be
He was
called
doing his best.
I would say it's probably HIIT training.
I did my
is what
best.
it'd be
He's
now.
doing his best. But yeah, so that's the big piece that I always, I had a guy the other day I was talking to about just, I used the word functional fitness, and he's like, well, what's that? It's like, let me put it to you this way. And I honestly used the example of, like, I used to lift heavy weights, but I used to work on the third floor. When I would take the steps, I'd get to the top of the steps, and my heart rate would be up. And I had abs, and I looked, like I was fit. But guess what? I wasn't fit. And that's whenever CrossFit really kicked me in the butt initially. Like you said, hey, man, I'll never forget 16.5. And guess what? You'll never, ever, ever forget that workout. Just like we'll never forget our first workout, because it's more than just like, oh, what? You remember the workout? It's like, no, I remember the humbling feeling that was washing over me, as far as like I thought I knew what I was doing before. And then you have that just harsh reality. Almost like whenever you probably seen the tragedy of 9/11, and you're just like, I am an able-bodied male, or whatever, able-bodied male, female, whatever you are, and you see something like that and you feel a call to respond to it. It's a feeling of just humility and humbling yourself, and that's part of raising, I'm sure, a family like you're doing every day. It's that pushing that patience and that humility button a little bit of just like, hey, you know what? It's not about me. It's about Nora right here, right now. She's hungry. I gotta feed her this food. It's not about me doing this podcast. I still gotta handle my business.
That's right.
So
I could use a little more
that's cool.
patience at times.
Yeah, well,
but I'm not going to
I'm
ask
sure y'all
for it
could.
because I'll get it in ways I don't want.
So going back to just out of curiosity, so obviously farmers carries are probably a big one. What other what's a big carryover for something that is almost directly relatable to CrossFit? So like snatches.
Deadlift.
You're not deadlift. Yeah, I would say deadlift is probably a big one.
Well, we'll get patients who are like, oh, you're never going to be able to lift me up. I'm so big. And I'm like, you're fine. You're less than what I lift, so you're good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Deadlift carries over almost directly because obviously my hand position's a little different, but my body positioning's the same.
You gotta keep the spine straight.
Exactly. And not hurt yourself, because, that's one of those, you lift people up. That's where most injuries occur in fire service and in EMS in general, is just back injuries due to lifting. So, yeah, that one carries directly over. And
Yeah.
And probably you did point out mobility earlier. I mean, you're still inflexible somewhat in areas, right? But I would imagine your mobility is still improved, and that might be a carryover to the realm of your daily job.
It's improved, but my mobility has always been limited from, if anybody remembers, what was it called, Governor's Cup or Governor's Cot style or whatever in grade school.
The sit and reach.
The sit and reach was always funny because I was always dead last.
Oh, yeah.
I was always in like the 5th percentile or
You gotta
worse.
sit down and tie your shoes. Yeah.
Exactly. Jen laughs because I do sit down to tie my shoes. She's like, what are you doing? It's easier.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Oh, and again, it's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's obviously something you can improve on, and have improved on. But it's something that if it's been with you your whole life, it's not going to go away just overnight.
Well, now I can blame some of it on genetics after having some tests run.
There you go.
So I have
always-
a very narrow spinal column all the way down.
That's
He
always
told me
good.
that's going to impede.
Very nice. I like it.
It's genetics.
You're making a mess.
So what? Couple like kind of finishing up questions here. What? Just someone coming in. So you had preconceived notions. You know, you talked to Jen. You're like, are you sure you can do this kind of thing? Being in it for 2 years, what's your view now from what it was, and what would you kind of tell someone that maybe had questions or maybe some doubts in exactly what we do?
The biggest thing, because I do tell people, because I think this is fantastic for anybody, thing I tell people is CrossFit's for anyone and everyone. I don't care what your level is, because there's always a modification that's going to work for you. And that's where they'll be like, what do you mean? Okay, well, I always use push-ups as an example, because that's probably the easiest one. But, you know, I mean, for push-ups, if you can't do a push-up, great, go to your knees. If you can't do knee push-ups, great, go to a box. If you can't do those, then go to a wall. You know, we do that, and then if you can't do deadlifts, guess what? You do air squats. You can do good mornings with a PVC pipe. You know, you can do just about anything you want with any modification, and really it's just as beneficial for you as anything else. Benefit doesn't have to be weight bearing. Benefit is mobility. Benefit is getting stronger and just being better.
And I think longevity, that's the name of the game that we've been touting for quite some time, is doesn't matter what you can do this year, it's going to matter what you can do 10 years from now.
That's one of my biggest things with wanting to be fit is my dad was not an old dad. I think he had me when I was 30, but by the time I was a teenager, he couldn't keep up with me and the other kids to play basketball or football or anything else in the backyard. He had knee problems and shoulder problems from, you know, high school and college. But it's one of those things, I don't want that to be me. I'm going to be 50, how old am I? I don't know, I'm going to be 55, 56, whatever, when she's 18.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to be.
You want to be able to dunk on her.
That's right.
Yeah.
When
That's
she
right.
tries to post up.
And I need to stuff her.
She just said no way.
I need to stuff her if she tries to take a shot.
No,
That's a big thing
that's
for me.
and I've seen you in here with the family on, you know, for our family class, and it's like I'm watching you pass these skills on like how to squat. You know, it's like I was here this past Saturday when the whole family was here, and it's like I've got 30 kids to worry about, but I don't necessarily have to worry about you guys because I'm watching you over there and you're directing your kids on basically how to sit down properly.
Yep.
And it's pretty amazing to see that be a cornerstone of a family when, you know, for the most part, it's just almost a hands-off approach for a lot of people at this point.
Well, and I don't only just want them to be fit, but I want them to be healthy and not get hurt.
Yeah.
That's one of those things that, you know, we try to preach. And kids are going to get hurt. We were talking about that earlier. You know, I've got 3 of my 4 boys have had CAT scans.
Yeah,
I've had stitches for 3 of them.
you have boys. That's all you have to say.
I hope we deal with the same stuff with her. I'll be honest with you. I hope we deal with the same stuff. Not because I want her to get hurt, but because if you're not getting hurt, you're probably not active enough.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with getting hurt. It's the preventable stuff that, you know, we try to stop. So
Sure.
that's the big thing, is just letting them be healthy, but teaching them how to do it the right way.
Fantastic, man. And those things look good. I do want to ask
They're not bad.
one last question for us here, and that's just a really basic one. That's just what is your definition of fitness?
My definition of fitness, you know what, I should know that's coming up. I didn't even think about it.
No, man, on the spot.
All right, so my definition of fitness is not being handcuffed to not be able to do something physically that's preventable. So I guess to recap that, fitness is being able to do what you want, when you want, how you want to do it without physical limitations that you can have some control over.
Pretty basic, and I love it. Doesn't have to be super complex.
No. Not limited, right? You want to be able to, like you said, I mean, I feel like you just did a good job of giving an example of that with stuffing, you know, you put stuff in playing basketball with your daughter, you know, like you're doing the math, you have a mission, you have your kind of goal, you have your priorities right in front of you. Literally, you're holding one of them in your hands right now as we're doing this podcast. And, you know, just from, you know, getting to know you and your family over the years, just, you know, I'm sure Jared can speak to this too. Just thank you for being the person, the authentic person that you are. I will absolutely say with 100% certainty, anytime I see you, you appear to be in a good mood. And I know that's not necessarily always the case, but man, you know, you typically come to 5:30 AM class, and I don't think you've ever not come into that class and you're just like, good morning, how you doing, Mark? And not everyone is like that.
Nope,
You know, and
life's
I'm
too
not saying
short.
everyone has to be like that. It's 5:30 in the morning. Like, come in, get your workout in. You don't have to be, you know, like Sparkles or, you know, anything.
Jen hates me for it.
Yeah, but I admire that in a way. I think it's admirable. So thank you for being your authentic self and bringing your family and being a part of this place we call Triumph.
I agree.
I'm glad you guys are here because you guys have definitely improved me as a whole. Just being here and around the people that are here.
Yeah.
Well, and thank you, Nora, for being
Yeah.
co-guest.
Should be one of our youngest guests, I
That's
think,
right.
ever.
By far. And thank you all for listening to Everyday Athlete. Join us next week as we dive deep in the lives of those who make us great. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks. Nora.